Hey now, it's Brace for Impact, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm going solo on that ass, but it's still the same. We're talking TNA wrestling, TNA Impact tonight. Lots of news to get into. Tons of stuff happened in the world of the according to Santino, if they get a television deal, the number 2 promotion in the entire world, leapfrogging New Japan and AEW, that is a total nonstop action wrestling. Um, I love the fact that every time these wrestlers say this stuff, people take the bait. It is a guarantee that that's going to get a rise out of some of the smartest people in all of wrestling. Um, I think Fightful had it, and then a bunch of the aggregators picked it up, and then I just like to go into the comments. That way I can like look at my life and be like, man, I have a really good life. Well, it can't be that good if I'm looking at these comments, but I like compared to them, I'm looking at I'm having an amazing life. But I will say that my boss Rich from Voices of Wrestling did a great article. His issue with it wasn't so much what Santino said, because he like Rich knows pro wrestling and he knows what wrestlers do, and they like to get headlines and they like to talk some shit and get some attention. And as IO, thank you in the chat, says headlines sells. Yeah. And so that's what he was trying to do. And it worked. His argument was that the article Santino gave the interview to Lucha Libre Online, and Fightful picked it up. And that's what they do. They aggregate podcasts. They got a whole crew there, kids that listen to podcasts that wrestlers do, and they will just like try to get headlines from them, and then they do articles about it, and then they tweet said article, and then the link to that podcast is usually buried in the body of the story. That's how they do it. They've done that to me a couple of times. I don't get hot about that stuff though. That stuff doesn't bother me. I understand the business. So but Rich's argument against it was that it was just poor journalism. Like the person that wrote that article decided not to even stress test that theory that they could be the number 2 promotion. They just like Santino said this, and that's it. So I get where Rich was coming from, but a lot of the other people were just like in the comments beneath the story on Twitter saying, no, that's not true. AEW is number 2, like Tony Khan's walking around with a goddamn trophy that says number 2 on it. So they get so mad, they get so insulted. So and oh, hold on, a swig of water for the working man. I was also one of those guys. I'd get really mad, like my intelligence is being insulted. You can't be serious. You can't be a serious person saying that stuff. And then I realized that no serious person is saying that. And I'm the dummy for taking the bait. So now I'm on team, like, laugh at other people for taking that bait. And so I got a good kick out of that article today. But let's go to the chat. We got Alter the Squirrel. What's up, homie? Thank you for being here. I did give strict instructions to the chat tonight to sound off. So I'm live on YouTube. We're going free tonight. We're going to do this fairly often. As long as my Patreon numbers don't go down, Patreon subscribers, I love you the most. Patreon.com/The Mike and JD Show. Typically, I do this on Thursday night or Friday night, and it's just me and a few folks from the Patreon. And then they get the video and they get the audio right away. And then like a day or two later, I'll just release the video on YouTube. That's been like a good battle rhythm for the show. But this week I was just like, there's so much going on. I did do a full podcast yesterday just for Patreon. Did like 30 minutes riffing about some of the top TNA news, which I'm going to talk about again here tonight. Got some updates to it, but I thought it's like, why not just go live for free for everybody? So Alter the Squirrels in the house, big new distribution deal, Gerard. So these next few months, this is like peak Gerard season right now. Like he's all over this story. He's tweeting like a madman. He's the only guy that I know that can probably out tweet Rover. Like him and Rover are the 2 guys that use Twitter the most that I know of. And he's all over that story. So hopefully we get some new news soon. And then official Lil Silva in the house. Official Lil Silva says they used to be the number 2 promotion years ago. Can't take that away from TNA. Actually, you can take that away because they used to be. So, like, by virtue of the fact that you said used to, like, that's you taking that away. so, so that has been taken away. They were supplanted by AEW back along. Actually, I think before AEW came around, I think Ring of Honor and New Japan probably. Actually, New Japan had surpassed them, and then Ring of Honor, I would say, um, was like once TNA left Pop TV, right? And Pop TV was not paying them a lot of money, but they still had really good visibility versus anywhere else. So I would, I think there was like an argument, like 2017, parts of 2018, that maybe, you could debate who was bigger at that time, Ring of Honor or TNA. I would go Ring of Honor. They were doing way better houses. They were touring all over the country. They just happened to be on the Sinclair stations at like odd times, and so, and they were giving their show for a free, like away for free, I think at that point. I know they had their streaming service, but I think the actual weekly show was free, so people could see it. So I would have put like, I would have given them the edge over TNA, and then of course 2019, once TNA went to Pursuit, that they were dead, and then that's when AEW was born later in 2019. So, and then and then after that it was like AEW number 2 and New Japan number 3, pretty much. And I think there's like CMLL, the bottom had dropped off until like this last year. Now CMLL is doing really good too. But yeah, lots of stuff to get into. Let me get back to the chat. Alto the Squirrel says that was such a nothing burger of news. Like, what do they expect Santino to say? He works for the company. It's his job to gas it up. Yeah, of course. Impact 88 said, enjoyed seeing Mr. Anderson wrestle tonight. Yeah, I like Mr. Anderson. I thought he was fun. I did get sick of him after a while. I really did. He was I think he got overexposed, and I think he was in TNA for too long, and he's been away for a long time. And like seeing him back, and he's older now. He's wrestling in a t-shirt. He probably could use some 10 cc's of Diana Ball a day and a tan. You know what I mean? But I didn't think he looked bad or anything. He just looks like a dad, which fucking look at me. I'm like, who am I to judge? But I thought it was cool seeing him. So I like Mr. Anderson. I don't care what the haters think. Io says they should still be the number 2 promotion right now. Yeah, no, they're not even close. F. Sinclair, lol, Jimmy Kimmel stuff. Yeah, we're not getting into politics tonight. Although this is my fucking podcast, I can talk about whatever I want. But I think people come here to listen to me talk about TNA and not politics. Tactical Playmaker said Ring of Honor took advantage of their relationship with New Japan. Yeah, they sure as hell did. And TNA, who the head booker of Ring of Honor during that time was Delirious. And now he's the head booker of TNA, and TNA has taken full advantage of their partnership with NXT, and that's leading them to a lot of success. So there are some parallels there. So, all right, guys, here's what I want to do. So I want to get the Masha Slamovich stuff out of the way. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because that is not my strong suit, talking about stories like that. I like to keep it fun and lighthearted. I am not the most sensitive guy, and I'm not the most mature guy, and nobody comes to my show for sensitivity and maturity. They like to hear me tell stupid dick jokes, right? And make fun of TNA and talk about the news, give my opinions, break stuff down, talk about the matches, and yada, yada, yada. You don't come here for me to talk about serious stuff like this, but I feel like it is my duty, considering she's one of the top stars in TNA, that I gotta go ahead and lead the show off with this, and then we're just gonna move on. So I don't want to spend too much time on it. But so Masha Slamovich, it was a couple of days ago. It was when the PWI 500 had come out. News had broke, or there were some allegations out there from her ex-boyfriend Akira, who is a indie wrestler, did MLW, did a lot of death matches. That she had been abusing him whenever they were in a relationship, that she was abusive towards him. And a lot of his friends corroborated that, and then they put out some texts. I'll be honest, I saw the initial text and I didn't take it seriously. legitimately. And I came across on social media like a total dick, and I'll admit that, because and I said something like I replied to somebody on Twitter or something stupid. And look, I'm not above saying something stupid. That somebody was asking what happened with Masha, and I said something to the effect of, her and her boyfriend got into an argument. He said some shit. She smacked him around a little, said a bunch of mean things to him, and now she's canceled. Completely dismissing it because all I had seen at that point were a couple of text messages where she had basically admitted to hitting him because he was talking shit, something like that. And her saying to him that he wasn't a big enough star and that she was disappointed in him and yada, yada, yada. And that she didn't like. And I read that and I was like, this is just two young people in a toxic relationship going through a bad breakup, and none of these texts should be public. I still believe that, right? But I also believe now that more information has come out where she's like, there's lots of pictures of him being beaten up. Like there's a picture of like a bloody frying pan. And then there's a lot of people coming to the defense of Akira and corroborating his story, right? So that is evidence, right? So you got the pictures. You don't have any videos that this stuff happened, but you got the pictures, and you got all these people that he knows that are saying that this is true. And I'll be honest, it takes a lot for a man to come out in public and say that his girlfriend was beating him. I think that means something. Okay. And that stuff doesn't really get taken seriously by the population because we are uber masculine. It's just in our DNA. And I don't think we take abuse from women towards men very seriously. I'm definitely one of those people because I didn't take it seriously. I thought she just smacked the guy around a little bit. I'm like, look, I grew up in a trailer park in California. That was just like Wednesday to me. Like, that's not a big deal. Thankfully I'm in a relationship where that doesn't happen. I don't know that I would be able to last. I did have an ex when I was in my 20s, and we were both crazy. Smacked me around one time because I said some stupid shit, and I just shook it off, right? And then we broke up, and then we moved on, right? And so, but that's a different story than this one. Like, these two were embedded in this toxic relationship, and the whole thing went fucking south. Okay. Well, yesterday, Masha Slamovich responded to the allegations. She didn't deny anything. She just said that they were in a mutually destructive relationship at the time. Took accountability for her actions, and essentially by the end of it said that she's going to do better. She hopes the best for him in the future, and she's going to get the help she needs, and she's going to go away for a little bit. Mike personally, and I'm a softie. Okay. So you got to know that about me. I like redemption. I like seeing people get better. I like seeing people admit their faults. I thought she did an okay job there. That apology is not going to be good enough for a lot of people. I read it and I was like, that's good enough for Mike. That's not good enough for probably the majority. It seems to have been good enough for the person that she had harmed, because he'd come out and I think he might have said something to that effect. I know he had his own story, or he had a response and said that he wishes her well too. So anyway, so she was scheduled to be at Victory Road on Friday night, and she has been pulled from the show. They did not announce. They totally skipped over the Knockouts Championship match. She was supposed to be there. She is not going to be in that match. I believe it was Fightful reported that her contract was coming up due later this year. I don't think she's coming back to TNA. Not for a long time. If she does. Look, again, I'm not a guy that throws people away forever. So if you came here to listen to me dogpile on this girl, you're not going to get that. That is not my style. I don't do that to people. I think the people that dogpile folks are pretty fucking scummy, right? I don't like that one bit. So you're not, if you're coming here for that, you're not going to get that. Okay. But I hope she's held accountable, and I hope she gets the help she needs. There's allegations of drug abuse, and I hope she gets treated for that. That could be a serious thing. I know for a fact that could be a serious thing. I've dealt with it in my own life. And if, look, I'm just a schlub, but I have a lot of experience in this area. If she ever needed help, someone could point her into my directions, and I would be happy to help, because that's the type of guy that I am. I don't toss people aside forever, and I hope that she gets better, and I hope Akira gets better, and I hope they get to put this all behind them. And I hope that one day, after she redeems herself, Masha comes back, to somewhere, maybe it doesn't have to be TNA, and has a good career, because I think she's a hell of a talent, and I hate to see a hell of a talent like this get wasted. So that's real sad. The whole thing sucked. I spent way too much time on it, to be honest with you. I don't like talking about this stuff. Like I said, it makes me uncomfortable, but and nobody comes here to be uncomfortable. We come here to have a good time. We come here to make fun of people who say the TNA is the #2 wrestling promotion in the world. and we also make fun of the people that get mad at that. They get mad with every fiber in their being. That's what you guys come here for. So let's go to the chat. Okay, let's see. The chat. I'm not going to do the Masha talk in the chat. What I will say is you know I think they should still have a knockouts title match, and I can't remember who it was that said that maybe. Oh, here, I want them to do an open challenge. Yes, so Lucky Charm. I want them to do an open challenge and have Mara Shade answer it. Feel bad for Ash. I don't want her to miss out on a title defense. Elegance brand interference could easily protect Mara in a loss. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a great idea. I think Mara Shade is going to be a star for this company. I really do. I for whatever reason, like I didn't see it in her whenever she had come as Jakara Jackson when she made her stint in TNA before. When she did that, I didn't really see much, but since she's been a part of the roster as Mara Shade, I think she's got something. So it's like I don't know what changed, right? Like I don't think the presentation has changed all that much. It might just be my perception that changed. So I think that they should do something like that. Let's see. Cozy time with Mike Gilbert. Shut up. Mike Gilbert doesn't get cozy. I am a big softie though. And like that's probably to my detriment. I let shit go, and I don't like tossing people away forever. I think that if you're the type of person that just wants to get rid of somebody forever and not, and not give them a path to redemption, I think you're worse than the person that's in trouble. Right? That's just Mike's opinion. Okay. Let's see. Even if it's not Mara, do something with it. Ash has been out there for the last few days doing local media. Yeah, I mean she's there. She's got. She'll do something. Like they'll figure it out. Look, they're not in a great position here, right? They're gonna have to rearrange the show tonight. They had to alter the show because I'm pretty. Didn't they say that no, that 6-man was last week, right? So they didn't have to alter the show too much, but they did have to go back and edit all the Masha stuff out that was scheduled for tonight, building the match for tomorrow. So they did have to do that, which I don't know how much that would have been, but they kind of have to rearrange some stuff. I don't think Masha was winning that title. I think that she's on her way out of the company anyway. And so I don't think many plans were changing. So, because as you guys noticed, like she lost at Slammiversary, and then she had lost the title to Jason Jane at Slammiversary. She went to NXT. She got pinned there by Ash. And I fully expected her to get pinned again because I think everybody thought that she was on her way to either AEW or NXT. So let's see. Io says because Lash Legend was getting more talk, more shine. I think Lash Legend is the one that WWE thinks is going to be the star, and they're probably right about that. I didn't see much in her at first, but she was really green. But I think she looks great now. I saw her recently. Let's see. I thought she was just fine, Mara. I thought Mara was just fine in NXT, but I've been liking her a lot as Mara Shade for sure. I think the stuff with the Hardys fit really well too. That's where I kind of saw like something in her. I was like, wait a minute, I think we got something here. I think we got like a legit chick here, like a badass knockout. So that was cool. Let's see. Gerard says there was a segment with Ash and Masha that was taken out. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. They had to go back and rearrange the show a little bit, but look, they're no stranger to this, right? They've had to do this a few times before. Everybody remembers the pandemic era in 2020 when Tessa held the belt hostage in Mexico, and at the same time, Michael Elgin and Joey Ryan had gotten canceled, and rightfully so. Like those are guys that I'm like, throw those guys away forever. But But anyway, so that was the Masha Slamovich news. So let's go and talk about the invasion. So the TNA finally invaded NXT, And I thought they did a really good job of building it up. Stephen Patrick, I see your chat. I'm gonna start this chat because I'm gonna get to that. So I just started because I'm gonna get to that. But it's probably gonna be in a little bit. So stay tuned. So they finally did the invasion, right? They had been teasing it for a week. They built it up for a week. Last week, I had the opinion that it would have been better had some TNA wrestlers invaded last week. I still like that opinion. Nothing that they did this past Tuesday makes me change my mind on that one. I felt like for the shock factor, they could have had a few people jump in, and then this week still could have done the big one. I think that would have been fine, but they decided to build it up for a week and get a rating, and they did have a good rating. It was over 700,000, I think, a 0.17. So they did pretty good. I think it was like overall down, but the demo rating was up a little bit, so that's good. So they tease it all throughout the show. They tease it for a week, and then the show turns on, and you just got like TNA wrestlers like lingering behind people all throughout the show, like in interview segments of people walking through the parking lot. You'd saw Moose and Matt Cardona and Eric Young and all these folks all night, and then you get to the main event, and it's Obafemi and Trick Williams. They're having a pretty good match, actually. And you see in the crowd TNA wrestlers, you got the Inspiration, the Iconics, and Xia Brookside. I don't know what the Iconics and Xia Brookside thought they were going to do in that moment. So it's like, were they going to hit the ring on Oba? It's like, I don't think so. But it's like, thank you for being here. So it's like, congrats. But and oddly enough, when Matt Cardona came out in the middle of that match, he got an unbelievable pop. Like, he came across as the biggest star out of everybody that was performing in that moment, right? Even bigger than Trick and Obafemi. I think people forget just like how popular he was in the WWE. And he like was on main roster forever. And then at one point couldn't figure out anything to do with him. So he's like, send me to NXT. So he goes to NXT for a while. And so those people there love him. And I think a lot of folks forgot about that. And I am curious if Matt Cardona forgot about that and what that meant to him. I bet that was a big moment for him, like a moment of validation, because everybody knows he wants to go back. So that, I thought that was cool. Like, I was just like happy for Cardona. So, but yeah, Cardona comes out, and then Mike Santana comes out, and he hops the guardrail, and he's on commentary. And then at one point, Trick Williams comes out and gets in his face and slaps him, and then Mike Santana hits him back, and then there's a disqualification, and then the TNA wrestlers hit the ring, and then the NXT wrestlers hit the ring, and you got this big brawl. It lasts like 30 seconds, and all of a sudden they like Ricky Starks and Obafemi are doing a face-off with the belt, and like TNA is just in the background. They're the out of focus guys. And so they were completely overshadowed. Like this huge angle that everybody was waiting to see got completely overshadowed by Ricky Starks and Obafemi. And while I do think that's lame, also makes sense because they're having a world title match on Saturday. So they had that great invasion, which I thought was fun while it lasted. I did feel like, it purposely got overshadowed by the upcoming world title match. And I was curious to see how TNA would follow that up. And of course they followed it up with a nothing show. It's like nothing like spectacular. Like, it wasn't a bad show, but it wasn't a really good show either. It was just like your average TNA show with nothing spectacular. And no follow-up other than a video package, which they do a pretty good job of. And no NXT stars, no heat coming out of it, no nothing. And that's because the show was fucking taped a month ago. And that is the problem with the invasion. It's hard to time this thing out because the show's taped. So I wonder if maybe they just had a really like the timing of it is just not good. And I'm curious as to what the strategy is here. Now I think it's very clear that TNA is going to CW. I am not reporting that. I don't have any inside info on that. I think that this whole invasion thing was designed to lead to a big announcement that TNA is now going to be on the CW network. That makes sense to me. I think that rumor's kind of been out there, and then we're seeing it play out in real time on television. Now, again, until that ink dries, nothing is for sure. Nothing is guaranteed. They could go to a different network, or they could just not go to another network, at all. And then at that point, it kills the whole Invasion thing. I think the Invasion works better if TNA is on CW. And if you take a look at the TNA stars that were there at NXT, like 95% of them were former WWE and NXT stars. I think the only people that had never worked for the company. Now, people were saying counting Zach Wentz and Eric Young as former NXT stars, but I'm like, hold on, pump the brakes, motherfucker. They were TNA first. Okay. Those are our guys. You can eat shit. Okay. So those guys are not counted, but it was Moose and Leon Slater and Mance Warner, and that was really it. Everybody else was Io said Heather by Elegance. Okay, yeah, Heather by Elegance, yeah, for sure. So it was just a handful of people that had never really been WWE employees before, WWE contracted wrestlers before. And the final shot, well, the shot that's been going around and the shot that's on my thumbnail is all those stars in the ring looking over the NXT stars, and it's just it's like a time warp. It's like, it's like the previous generation of NXT versus the new generation of NXT. It's like, and I think that's by design. Matt Cardona is not a TNA contracted wrestler. Matt Cardona is a free agent. He has not been under contract with anybody since he left WWE back in, I believe, 2020, 2021 timeframe. But he works TNA shows, so WWE wanted them there, and I think that was strategic because the selling point of TNA on CW, Mike's theory here, and I do theories a lot, so don't think I'm reporting this. This is just my opinion. Mike's theory is, and I try not to talk in the third person, but you guys get the fuck I'm talking about. So my theory is that the selling point for TNA on CW is to get as many familiar stars as possible under the TNA banner. As many stars that are familiar to the NXT fans as possible under that TNA banner to get that good crossover appeal. I understand the logic behind it. However, at some point, TNA's strategy is going to have to evolve into finding new stars that are not former WWE stars because it is so blatant. It is egregious at this point. It's like they're just waiting for WWE stars to get fired so they can pick them up at 15 cents on the dollar, as Rover would say on Twitter. I think they need to do a better job of scouting unnamed, unknown, unsigned talent on the independents, or even trying to like look, you got wrestlers there that work with you that have wrestling schools. Maybe try to recruit some people that have never even had a match before and groom them, much like NXT does. I know it doesn't always work out for them, and you don't have the same kind of resources they have, but I think that you need to start doing stuff like that. Because you set yourself up to be the butt of the joke whenever, you're that selling point is, it looks like two different eras of NXT battling each other. And that's what it comes across as. So nobody sees those people as TNA people. They see them as former WWE people. In fact, most of them are going to be referred to as their TNA name. Ultra the Squirrel makes a good point. TNA ID, NXT evolved TNA style, right? You're going to get to a point where people are going to talk about whatever TNA on CW is as just another episode of WWE television. And if that's what it becomes, I'm not interested in that whatsoever. And so I think that there's some danger there. I would be mindful of that if I were TNA. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get to Stephen Patrick's chat here. So he says, any scoop on why there are no tapings post-Bound for Glory? My hunch is they're going to use a month showing unseen best matches to build up November shows in Orlando, which will debut on a new channel. I think there's something to that. So a couple of days ago, I got a DM from somebody that if I told you the name of the person, you'd probably fall out of your chair. But I talked about it yesterday on Patreon. I'm not revealing the name. I'll never do that. They told me that the post Bound for Glory episodes that they were, or the events that were supposed to be in October were canceled. Now, I never saw anything that was ever on the schedule, so that could just be them using the wrong word. Maybe cancel is not the right word, but said basically telling me that there are no events post Bound for Glory. And I was under the belief for like a day and a half that they were going to go dark from Bound for Glory until November 13th in November, where they would debut live on the CW from Full Sail University in Orlando. Okay. Now, again, Full Sail has not been announced. They just announced Orlando. More on that in a sec. So that was my theory. And then Sean Ross Sapp comes out with a report yesterday that talking about what I had been publicly talking about. I don't know if I broke the story, but I mean, like, look, you just look at the schedule and you know there's no events booked. All right. But I had been I was one of the guys talking about it. I know Miguel Contreras was talking about it and a few others. It's like, hey, look, we're getting close. It's like 3 weeks away to Bound for Glory, and we still have no post tapings, right? And so that's when I got a DM from the person, and then Sean Ross Sapp, I talked to him a little bit, and then he'd come out with a story that he kind of dropped that the PC might be on the table. I can't remember the exact verbiage that he used on Fightful Select, but there's some, I guess there might be some people thinking that the post Bound for Glory shows could be at the PC War NXT tapes. Now, again, remember that the November shows, it just says Orlando. It doesn't say where, right? So, I guess it's conceivable those could be at the PC. My prediction would still be Full Sail University. But like at least those are on the schedule, because you have to set those like you buy tickets to those shows. At NXT, you don't buy tickets for those. They just bust these nerds in from Orlando, and they get to go, right? So I get the feeling, I guess, a very real possibility that that's what's going to happen. Now you got to remember, so if they do a month of television at the PC, that could give them time to get their infrastructure in place to be able to go prime time on CW with a better looking television show. The show that I watched tonight does not look nowhere near as good as what NXT on CW looks like. They need better equipment. They need better infrastructure. They need a better production team, like an in-house production team. And if they go to the PC, they could outsource that to WWE. There are people out there that think that WWE's taken over a lot of the aspects of what TNA does, because TNA's team is just not there, right? They don't have the infrastructure in place to go on a major network, right? The show looks like shit compared to NXT. It just does, right? Alter, Squirrel, my man. Can't wait to see a TNA show in HD for real. Like, how long has it been since they've been in true high definition, right? There's been times they've been true high definition, but like a lot of times it looks like they're in standard definition. Like, take a look at when Jordan Grace is on Impact and then she goes to NXT. She looks like $1 billion because she's in high definition. It's like, you want her to be in high definition. She's shredded, right? Like, you could tell she was jacked on TNA, but you like it looks like it's way more defined when she's in front of those cameras, right? And that production crew. So they're look, I'm not saying that, I'm not reporting that WWE's taking over the production, but there is a real possibility that they're going to be heavily involved in the production of TNA once they go. Now, I don't know if that would be a permanent thing. I don't know. I got BQ actually. He's going to come out with a video. That was my number one question. It's like, hey, I heard, and I did hear this, by the way, that WWE was taking over some stuff from TNA. That's not a report. That's not anything that I could like verify. Nothing like that. So it's just consider it just a rumor at this point. But I sent that over to BQ. I sent him that information, and so I'm hoping he will be able to talk with his people and see if there's a confirmation there. So let's see. Gerard says, I got it from two people who would know, confirmed to me that there's nothing planned, but there's something up. So he's talking about the post Bound for Glory tapings. Yeah. They got nothing planned. I feel like there is a plan. The plan could be to go dark. We've seen this company go dark before. Remember when they switched to TNA, they went dark for 3 months, and we thought they'd come back with a whole new production crew and all new equipment, and they just come back with new ropes and a new logo. Fucking losers. Goddamn Scott D'Amore. Squirrel says, I mean, they're doing an invasion angle. TNA taking over the PC makes sense, but yeah, where's NXT gonna go? So maybe I made this joke earlier on the Voices of Wrestling Discord, but maybe they can, do a match where if a TNA wins, they get to be roommates. they get to move in. Silver says 3 tapings will be in December 5th. In El Paso, Texas. I get the feeling that's the same place that they ran earlier this year. And you can fill up the PC on a week's notice, even a day's notice, if that's what they're doing. They don't need to announce ahead of time, of course. Yeah. So that's where I think the suspicion comes from, that it's the PC for October. November is like halfway announced. They don't have the venue announced, but I get the feeling that's Full Sail since it is on the schedule. They want people to make plans to go to Orlando. So, and if they're bringing in outsiders, like a lot of outsiders don't really go to NXT. That's more of a local thing. Cause again, there's like a whole thing you have to go through. You have to like take a bus, and like, you can't just like buy a ticket and go park and all that. Like, it's weird. But with Full Sail, you can just buy a ticket and go just drive up and park, and there you go. So I think that you don't even have to sell tickets to the PC. You just tell those nerds to show up and they'll be there. And I say that lovingly, by the way. Let's see. Gerard says, we can't speak of what exactly we were told. So this is from Fightful Select. But see something unconditional or different for TNA. They wouldn't be listed at the Performance Center. TNA at the Performance Center. They wouldn't be listed on ticket sales as of now. On ticket sites as of now. Yeah, that's true. Okay. All right. IO says their old production crew is in AEW. Yeah. They gave him like 5 days notice. That's fun. Will TNA ever go back to the OG Impact Zone? I don't think so. I think that costs too much. Full Sail University, not only does it not cost as much, it still looks nice. I thought that the NXT Homecoming looked great. I hope that TNA, if they're going to do their shows from Full Sail going forward, they need that bigger stage that the NXT had. I thought that looked amazing. They looked way better at Full Sail than what TNA looked earlier this year. Again, production matters, right? Like, having a big time production is very important when you're on a big channel. So, no, I don't think they're ever going back to the Impact Zone. I mean, I guess you never say never, but I wouldn't expect it. I think Full Sail would be the spot, and possibly, I guess it's on the table. It's on the table now that it would be the Performance Center. So there you go. Okay. All right. 2 more news bits, and then we'll get to the Impact review. Mickie James going into the Hall of Fame. It was announced on believe, what was it? What was that guy's show? Sam Roberts, the Sam Roberts podcast. I think Carlos Silva did a run in there and broke the news to Sam Roberts on or broke the news to Mickie James while she was being interviewed on the Sam Roberts show. And she's finally getting in. I'll be honest, when they made the announcement, I was like, man, I could have sworn she was already in, but no, she wasn't. She's not in. She's going in. She'll be the headlining attraction for that. And I mean, it's well deserved, like so deserved that I assumed that she was already in. I mean, it's cool. I mean, everybody loves Mickie James, so it's good to see her go in. And then also it's been announced that the beautiful people, what's her name? Angelina Love, and what's the other lady's name? Velvet Sky. Yeah, Velvet Sky and Angelina Love. They were, for television ratings for a while, they were the top attraction in TNA. They 100% were. They were really over. They were popular. They couldn't work a lick. You get them in the ring and they couldn't do a goddamn thing. But like the entrance and the Mean Girls act, and like they had it going on. Like they were over like crazy. I am so over. In fact, I am shocked they never made it in WWE. I figured WWE would have plucked that act at some point, but they just never brought them in. They recreated it several times, but they never brought in the OGs, the beautiful people. They had a great name, great theme song. They had the great look. The whole package was fantastic. They just couldn't wrestle. So I think they were better than a lot of the people that were coming in, but still, they were not out there having banger matches. But who gives a fuck about the banger matches? They were over, and that's it. Like, over is over, and it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you're over and you can draw. And they were legit draw. They were legit draw. So happy for them, and they appear to be like nice people too. Let's see. Nick Aldis should induct Mickey. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I kind of want to see James Storm induct Mickey and then throw her in front of a train again. I'm just kidding. But I did think that was a funny bit back in the day. So I think ODB Tara should be next to inductions. Madison Rain solo induction. Well, we're only inducting women now. We can't induct men. What are we, sexist? What are we doing? I know this year's all women, but can we get fucking Beer Money, Motor City Machine Guns? You know, Jeremy Borash, I think, should go in at some point. He was a very big part of the company. Come on, like Eric Young. Team Canada would be cool if they can get D'Amore back in the fold. Dixie Carter should go in at some point. A lot of people. Don't leave out the dudes. Come on now. What are we doing? Let's see. Yeah, they weren't the best in the ring, but they had a lot of aura for sure. The Fed doesn't appreciate Mickey. TNA loves her. Yeah, I mean, she was a way bigger star in TNA. Like Gail Kim, and I'm not touching the Gail Kim stuff today. Just not going anywhere near it. Okay. People want, if you came here to hear me talk and try to bash Gail Kim, you're not getting that here. I adore Gail Kim. You're not getting me to say anything bad about her. And in fact, I'm pretty sure a lot of my opinions are way more offensive than hers. So don't come here looking for that. Ishmael, thoughts on WWE leaking fake ratings? I don't know what you're talking about, bud. Don't know what you're talking about. Angelina had a tryout but didn't work out. Yeah, well, she's not particularly very good in the ring. So let's see. Ishmael says NXT did 617. Is that true? With a 0.12 rating? I don't know. I have not been online for a little bit, so I don't know if that's true. So don't give me fake news, brother, unless it's like legit. So all right, let's see. Nicholas Riley says Mickey has said in a past interview she wants Tara to induct her. That'd be cool. Gerard says, what a shit show. This show, Gerard? What is a shit show? My show? Come on. My show's not that bad. Let's see. Motor City Machine Guns under W contract said they weren't ready to go in the Hall of Fame. Oh, I'm just saying, like, down the road. Down the road, that would be good. So when is Gail coming on the show? She said she would come on in public, right? She quote tweeted me. And if you don't think I bookmarked that, you guys are crazy. Of course I bookmarked it. Here's what I think about Gail and why she's so active on Twitter right now. I get the feeling she's got a podcast coming out. I don't know this for a fact. I just think it's true. Because I've seen this before. When someone who doesn't tweet a whole lot all of a sudden starts tweeting and getting into arguments and putting a lot of their opinions out there, I feel like they're prepping themselves for a podcast. Just my thoughts on it. Okay. So we'll see. So Gerard said the Gale stuff is a shit show. She's having fun. I don't think she quite understands the internet wrestling community just yet. I don't think she quite grasps what she's doing there with those people. She's getting a fucking so she's getting a rude awakening at sometimes with how crazy these folks can be, and she just keeps gaslighting them. So I don't know, let her have fun. Like if you're mad at Gail for her opinions and you're like attacking her online, I think you're the bad one. So just so you know, right? Like my opinion of Gail is higher than my opinion of you if you're like actively attacking her in her comments, right? So like and I like it when retired wrestlers shit on stuff. So because I'm a retired Air Force guy and I shit on all kinds of Air Force stuff all the time. You got all these fucking kids today. They're crying about their shaving waivers. Those are getting taken away. They're crying about PT tests being harder. crying about all that stuff. And I'm like, good. I hate him. Good. Let's see. Oh, look at this. Dollar Night Ishmael says, "Glad, love the pod, brother. Glad you and JD are back. Thank you, sir. I'm glad. Yeah, Gail Kim got money, so she ain't got no worries. Yeah, and that's the thing. So, like, I think a lot of people. I said I wasn't gonna get into the Gail stuff, but here I am getting it. You guys tricked me into fucking talking about the story, but here we are. Okay. Here's my thing. I think Gail Kim could have a wrestling job if she wanted it right now. But I think it would have to be on her terms because she doesn't need the money. She made really good money during her career, between like the peak of TNA. I'm sure she got paid quite a bit. She was in WWE for a long time. She's had all her side gigs, and then her husband's like got an empire. So if you're going to bring in Gail Kim, it's going to have to be on her terms, and she's going to get to be herself. She's not going to be like, she's not going to not tell you what's on her mind. Right. And I think in a corporate environment like WWE, I don't think that she would want to do that. And honestly, she did not have, like, she was a part of WWE, but she doesn't have fond memories of her time there. And in fact, she didn't like her time in WWE and bashed them for years, right? So people think that her saying what she said about Riho was this tribalist thing where she's only doing it because Riho is AEW and she's trying to build up WWE, when in fact she was asked about it. She didn't bring it up out of thin air and gave her opinion on it, right? You can agree or disagree. I think Gail is in a really good position to say, as a woman that's wrestled for as long as she has and has been put in uncomfortable positions throughout her career, I think it's okay for her to tell you guys what makes her uncomfortable and that you guys shouldn't bash her for that. Mike's opinion. And I think a lot of the reason why a lot of people are bashing her is because they're standing up for AEW versus standing up for Riho. They try to turn it into a tribalist thing. Because if you look at a lot of the comments on there, it's like, oh, hey, well, what about Alexa Bliss? And what about all these other folks? Which I call that Alexa Bliss shit out fucking day one, by the way. And I got into really bad arguments with people about it. So, and she's not tracking all that stuff. But she was asked about Riho. And I said it before on this show, right? If you don't get into the tribalism and you're not a part of that world, you can ask me my opinion of an AEW show, and I feel like I can go ahead and criticize that without telling you 5 things the WWE also did bad, and vice versa. If I'm going to criticize WWE, I don't also in the same breath or in the same tweet or even in the same episode then insult 5 different things about AEW. I don't have to do that because I don't fucking care. I'm going to answer the question directly and I'm going to stay on the topic. I don't need to list everything out that everybody else has already done. That's coward shit. You don't have to do that. Right. And so I think that that's what happened here is she said what she said about Riho, which was not news. I think she said that before, that she felt like her stuff didn't look believable because she's so small and that the dressing up like a schoolgirl made her uncomfortable. Right. Which I don't know why white men in her comments are telling her that she's not allowed to feel uncomfortable about that. That's weird. I think that's creepy. But now clearly, like, I'm biased here. I adore Gail. So I'm on Team Gail. So, people don't like that. That's fine. But now I don't like the abuse that Riho gets. I think that's creepy too. And I think Gail saying what she said only fuels the people that don't like Riho and they come out attacking Riho. But I also don't think Gail understands that. And I think hopefully somebody will explain that to her and she'll dial it back a little bit. But now she's like locked in, right? She's taking all this abuse online. So she's locked in and she's just like going over the top defending herself. And now we're in a fucking mess. So at some point, I just want to, like, Gail follows me, right? I feel like I should just DM her and be like, you need to drop this stuff. So it's like, you're going nowhere, right? You're got like you're not going to win these arguments, like, as you're arguing with fucking bots, right? Bots that are designed to make us hate each other. That's all this is, right? We get it in politics, right? You get these faceless, nameless bots who sit online all day and it's their job to make everybody hate each other. And you get it in wrestling too. Wrestling community is the same fucking way. They're Democrats and Republicans. They're sitting there waiting for every post to sit there and shit on something that you like, right? And the people that hate what you like, you're more likely to see their opinion versus the people that agree with you, right? Because the algorithm wants that conflict. It needs you to hate each other, right? You can't just disagree. You have to hate each other. And that's the fucking problem. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. And I do, right? Because I'm fucking me, right? And I just get it. So I don't get caught up in that shit, right? Unfortunately, a lot of folks do get caught up in it and they get twisted around and they fucking go crazy, right? There's a kid in South Carolina recently, an AEW fan, locking motherfuckers up in his basement for days. I gotta watch that documentary, by the way. That's wild. Let's see. Nanzo says sanctimonious whites. Yeah, it's a lot of sanctimonious whites coming after Gail. It's like, you guys fucking set that one out, right? Let the women argue with Gail about how she feels in that matter. I think that she is qualified to say what makes her feel uncomfortable, right? I'm not going to go to her and say, hey, look, you don't have the right to say that makes you feel uncomfortable because you did some stuff on television that you were happy to do when in fact she wasn't, right? And she's been outwardly public about how she felt humiliated at different times during her run in TNA and WWE. So, okay. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but I talked about it anyway. You guys got me on one. Got me on here defending Gail Kim because you guys know I love the lady. She's fantastic. And can you guys believe the idiot scumbag deathmatch geek Brett Lauderdale tried to say Gail Kim didn't have any memorable matches? What? Like, what? Just say you don't know ball. Just like, if you don't think Gail Kim's good, just admit that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Gail Kim was awesome at a time when when women weren't allowed to be awesome, right? She went out there and was awesome, right? And you're going to try to take that away from her because she doesn't like death matches? Most normal people don't like that. That's weird, right? Normal people don't like death matches. Okay, you can't show people, like, I'm not going to go to work tomorrow and like have my iPad like on my lunch break. I'm not going to watch a death match in public because the person walking behind me is going to think I'm the worst fucking person in the world, right? You have to understand that when Gail Kim shits on a death match, she's right? Because most people, 99.999% of the population thinks that's fucking gross. And if you're the one that really likes it, good for you. Like, you like what you like, but don't get mad at other people because they don't like it, right? They're right. You're the one that's wrong. You're like very few people think that that's good. You're the one that's wrong. Okay, I'm done talking about Gail Kim. All right, let's get to this episode. I thought this episode was basic and average, to be honest with you. You had so much heat coming out of NXT, but because this goddamn thing is taped, you got no heat coming into the show. I like the venue in Minnesota. At different times they were up for Kennedy or Mr. Anderson. Sorry. I think they're up for the opening match, but the rest of it just felt like they were not interested. So we'll get to the opening match. I don't think this is going to be a long one. I got to get out of here soon. Leon Slater and Cedric Alexander defeated the Rascals, Trey Miguel, and Zachary Wentz in like 10 minutes. Myron Reed was on commentary. Myron Reed will be facing Leon Slater tomorrow night on Victory Road. Miguel caught Slater with a knee, and Wentz came off the top with a swanton for a near fall. The Rascals went for a double team, but Alexander broke it up and started suplexing everyone like he was Brock Lesnar. Slater hit Miguel with a swanton 450 and got the pinfall. This is a fun match, and I want to see Leon versus Myron Reed, but the whole babyface versus babyface thing I think is kind of boring sometimes. So I feel like maybe Myron Reed should have turned heel, but I guess maybe it's just me being an old curmudgeon, which I am for sure. So, Jim Miller interviewed Frankie, who promised to make something out of Jake something later tonight. There you go. And then on NXT Tuesday, TNA invaded and ruined the title for title match finish that literally everyone saw coming. What happens next between NXT and TNA? Nothing, because NXT has No Mercy on Saturday and TNA has Victory Road on Friday. No Mercy is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and on the complete opposite fucking end of the continent in Edmonton, Alberta, is where NXT is at. So, there you go. Let's see. Eric Young yelled at Santino Marella in the parking lot, and Marella made the match between Joe Hendry and Eric Young for tomorrow night. So I get the feeling this is where Eric Young shit cans old Joe Hendry. You notice how at NXT Joe Hendry wrestled, and they're not talking about him as if he's a TNA star. He's just an NXT star. He was not a part of the invasion. He was not a part of anything. His job is, and he's in NXT. He's on loan to TNA. Like, that's what it is. So Gerard says, pretty sure we'll get some stuff between both companies. Yeah, like if you're not on Victory Road, I get the feeling you can go to No Mercy and vice versa. So, gotcha. Victoria Crawford defeated Jody Threat in 4 minutes. I wish it was 30 seconds. This was so bad. The crowd did not care. Tessa Blanchard returned and distracted Jody, and Crawford got it. She missed the axe. She missed the axe kick, but she hit her with She attempted to hit her with an axe kick that she blew, and camera showed it, and so wasn't very good. Bad match. I guess they're setting up something with Jody, and so I guess it's gonna be Jody. Somebody, I think it was Dobby. I can't remember who said it, but Jody and Gia Miller versus Tessa and Danny Luna, I think is where they're going for Bound for Glory. And then Joe Hendry gave a backstory of his match, talking about how Eric Young was like took him under his wing and all that. So, building the match for tomorrow. System then challenged Order 4 to leave both their factions in the back during the match with Moose versus Mustafa Ali tomorrow night. And then we got to another bad match. So this was not good. A 6-minute battle royal. So they had a battle royal to determine who would become number 20 in the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. I was hoping that with this new management team and them going on CW that we were done with the intergender stuff. And looks like we're not, because we had the intergender stuff and you got men hitting women and women hitting men. And it's a whole thing. And it's like, talk about believable and nonsense. It's what we had here. And I'm obviously, like I said, I'm a fucking old guy, so I don't really like this stuff. But yeah, so they did the intergender battle royal, and Mance Warner got the victory here. The match wasn't very good, although I did think that Lei Ying Li was impressive. I like her, and I do think that she's got something. So, yeah, AJ Francis did some mic work, and then Rosemary misted him, and then they all threw him out of the company. So, are they not out of the company, out of the match? Yeah. Ryan Nemeth eliminated Mid Cardona and Hometown Man, setting up a match for tomorrow. But Mance Warner and Lei Ying Li were the final two, and Mance got the boot on Lee, kicked a woman right in her face, and she's out. So there you go. All right. Mickey James and the Beautiful People will be inducted into the Hall of Fame this week. So, yep, of course. And then we get to the final negotiation, and it's Team 3D versus the Hardy Boys. And it was two legendary tag teams jacking each other off for 10 minutes. And I didn't think this was particularly very good. They're talking about stuff that happened 25 years ago, exposing how old they are. There's no heat. They're not mad at each other. They're going to compete for the tag team titles, which I think is a mistake. I think that they should have pulled the titles from the Hardys and put them back on the Nemeth. I wanted it to be Rich Swann and AJ Francis, but they brought Rich Swann back for that one night, and he's not back. And I saw him I didn't watch it, but I saw the tweet. He showed up at NWA, so I don't even know if the guy's in the company anymore. I don't know what's happening there. The crowd was into this, though. I was not into this, but the crowd was into this. Look, here's the thing. They're going to do a tables match, which we all saw coming. The fans popped for the announcement for the tables match. They're saying it because 25 years ago they had the first tables match. It wasn't the first, right? Like Public Enemy they did those before, and Sabu had tables matches. It was the first in WWE, but it was not the first. And so they're doing the tables. I'm sure the match is going to be fine. The problem is that the Dudley Boys that I grew up with, and they did call themselves the Dudley Boys, although Team 3D is on the header, would have attacked the Hardys here when they weren't looking, put them through the tables, beat the shit out of Jeff Hardy, left him bloody, so that way he couldn't go to Canada. Right? That's the Dudley Boys that I grew up with, not these soft ass pussies that I saw tonight. I'm just talking about the characters, right? These big softies that I saw tonight, blowing smoke up the Hardy Boys' asses. I don't like those Dudley Boys. I like the Dudley Boys that are using F-bombs and trying to start riots and beating the shit out of people, right? We didn't get that. We got two tag teams jacking each other off, and that's just not very interesting to me, right? Get some heat. Let's have a fight. And maybe they'll get there, but Jeff Hardy is not going to be in Edmonton because he's not allowed in Canada. So they can't, I don't think they can build the match. I think that was the build. I could be wrong, but I don't think we're going to see it. So I don't know. Okay. Mustafa Ali is tired of the disrespect in the system, and Ali accepted Moose's challenge, leave everyone else in the back for their main event. I don't think it's the main event, by the way. Ali ups the ante by adding a stipulation that the winner of the match gets his team the advantage in the upcoming Hardcore War. So now we know that Mustafa Ali is winning because the heels always get the advantage in the Hardcore War. So the system bursts on the scene and both sides stare each other down. A little preview for Victory Road, which I'll get into here in a minute. And then we get to the main event, Steve Macklin and Ken Anderson versus Frankie Kazarian and Jake Something. I thought this was a good match. So they bookended it with two pretty good matches. It's not anything that anybody needs to go out of the way to see, unless you grew up with Ken Anderson and you just want to see him back in the ring. You just like him. I think that I would recommend it. I thought it was a good match. If you're a star chaser, a star fucker, you like the star ratings, match not for you. You like some good crowd heat, old school style tag team wrestling, where the heels are beating down the baby faces, and you got the old legend in there, and you got the three young guys. Oh, Frankie's not really young. I think Frankie and Anderson are probably the same age. But I thought it was a well put together, well done match. And Steve Macklin got the KIA on Frankie Kazarian, which tells me that Frankie is probably winning tomorrow, and I think that's the right decision. And I say that knowing that I love Steve Macklin, but I just don't think that his babyface run has been great. So, all right, let me get back to the chat, and then I'm going to hit up the Victory Road preview, and then we're going to call it a night. Alter says, breaking news, AJ Francis out of the company. Yeah. Lei Ying Lee should win the KO title. Yeah, I think she could win it. Yeah, I would love to see that. Yeah, poor job getting any heat for this tag team match. Team 3D did not cost them the titles to take Jeff out in the segment. Yeah, so that's what we needed. All right. Thankfully, these next 2 weeks will go by before BFG. Yeah, I think the build happened tonight. So I think Impact 88. I think the last time the Dudley Boys had a tables match at Bound for Glory, they lost to the Steiner Brothers in 2010. That might be true. I'm not going to look that up, but that sounds true. So there you go. All right, let's get to the Victory Road. So on the Countdown show, we got Cedric Alexander versus Trey Miguel versus Zachary Wentz. Should be a great match. I wonder who's going to get the title match at Bound for Glory. I don't think they're going to go back to Cedric. So I'm curious. I would probably go with Zachary Wentz, especially because he's got that NXT cred. That's probably the way to go. AJ Francis is going to have Matt Hardy on the First Class Penthouse. You could skip that, I'm sure. And then Victory Road, Moose versus Mustafa Ali. Winner gets the advantage in the Hardcore Boar. I'm going to go with Mustafa Ali there. Hometown Man and Matt Cardona versus the Nemeths. I'm gonna stick with the heels. I'm gonna go heels on that one. Heels up. Nemeths win, and they've been Hometown Man. Mike Santana versus future TNA legend Ridge Holland. I don't know this for a fact. I just know it's true that this is Ridge Holland's. Excuse me. This is a Ridge Holland interview. Essentially, this is his tryout match with TNA. Because I don't think this guy is long for WWE. They've tried with him for so long, and I think TNA is kicking the tires on this guy because I get the feeling that Ridge Holland's going to be gone, and they can bring him in at a lower rate. So, Elegance Brand versus the Inspiration for the TNA Knockouts Tag Team titles. I'm going to go Inspiration here finally. I think you want the Inspiration holding those tag team titles as you head into Bound for Glory, especially if they can get on NXT television and promoted like their faces that they know. Elegance brand is I like them. I think they're a really good tag team. But I think you want the titles on Inspiration heading into Bound for Glory as you build it, because you're going to do all the crossover with NXT. You're going to have the cred there. So Joe Hendry versus Eric Young. I think Eric Young wins. And then who was it earlier? I want to get to your chat. Was it Nicholas Riley? Do you think a reunited Sanity and TNA is how Joe is ultimately written out of the company? Yes, I do. I do. I think I talked about it last week, but yeah, I think that's the move. Sanity's available. They have look, they're going all in on NXT with TNA, right? It makes sense. So I think that's the move. And I thought Sanity was a great act, and I thought they should have brought them in a couple years ago when they first got released. I thought it would have reinvigorated Eric Young, who's been floundering since he returned to the company, has not had a great run. So I think bringing back Sanity would be the way to go. Okay. Steve Macklin versus Frankie the Future Kazarian international title. I'm going to go Frankie on that one, which I think that match main events. And then Leon Slater versus Myron Reed for the X title. Leon, of course, retains. And, of course, no mention of the Knockouts World title, the TNA World Champion on the card. So there you go. And that was it for Impact, guys. And let's see. Lucky Charm, I get your last chat in. He says, I'm conflicted because I love the Elegance brand and think they should run the whole division for a while. Yeah, I get it, but Inspiration have challenged for the tag titles a couple of times. If they lose it, they're just done. And I know they're only on a short-term deal, but I think that they got to win it. And in fact, I get the feeling they brought them in to win it. So, but all right, folks, that is going to do it for me on this episode of Brace for Impact. I will not be doing a Victory Road post show tomorrow night because they moved the show from 9 p.m. to 9 p.m. and it's probably not getting over till midnight. I don't stay up that late. I'm going to be fucking sleeping. So I will watch the show over the weekend and then on the Mike and JD show on Sunday, which will be right here on YouTube. And of course, patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. I will review it then. JD's not going to watch it, so it'll just be me reviewing it. So come enjoy. Let me know what you think on a Sunday night of Victory Road. And until next time, mahalo.